Was that it? Is that the end of the bear market? This signal could be important for such things. Welcome back to Krown's Clickbait Cave, where I'm getting my O face ready for yet again another failed thumbnail, but plenty to talk about today, as actually we do have some very significant things having, blah, blah. I can't speak English, not one bit, happening on the higher term time frames. And of course, I do want to follow up on that little bit of a clickbait opening statement, we'll call it, and plenty to talk about actually on the short term time frames as well as we head into Friday's closure today. So with that said, I would like to wish you the best and the happiest. To make an announcement, I will be on Twitch later, most likely. Might even be a little bit of a dog party going on right now too, of which Lucky just finished pooping right in front of my face, which is really nice to wake up into in the early morning hours at 3 a.m. Wash off my face and just start the day with a fucking doozy, huh? Anyways, what else do I want to say? Yep, Discord is open and available to anyone. You're more than welcome to join on in. However, we do have a few rules, mostly to do with, just being a normal, civilized human adult that can have a normal conversation even when you disagree with someone. We just ask that it's done civilly. So with that said, the link's in the description below. And oh yes, you do need to know about the alt identifier security bot, which will DM you a link to verify yourself as soon as you are in the server, which you get 10 minutes to do. If you don't do that, then just leave and come back if you want to reinitiate that, and all good. There's also a video explaining it as the channel homepage video. So with that said, into the Krown Chain application we go, which can be found at app.krownchain.net. And by the way, it's 100% free, and in just a little bit less than 2 weeks now, actually, we're going to be getting the new version of the app. I know that I've been pushing this back a little bit more and more, but it's for good reason. We have some very, very cool things coming, mostly to do with major customization features, and we're really going for it. And more importantly, it's something that I actually really want myself, and have wanted for a long time, and mostly be able to offer some pretty unique data straight from CME. So what else do we see? We see plenty of things on the Krown Chain application as it is right now. Bitcoin dominance actually coming down from yesterday to today. I believe we were just above 69%, of which coming down about 0.5% to a full percent, which that does suggest that as Bitcoin does still play with a range, altcoins kind of holding their value as it is right now. So I do think that it would be worthwhile checking out some Satoshi pairings to see what the narrative is going on over there. And the open interest also popping up quite significantly as well. So if you remember, over the last week, what did we see? So we saw Bitcoin go up to about 42,000 bucks about a week ago, we'll say. And open interest during that time was around about 6.5 billion with a B, that is. Then Bitcoin backs are off from about 40,000 to 30,000 base. Of course, I'm using round numbers here, but more or less the same. And we saw open interest come down significantly. We saw it come down about 1.5 billion all the way to actually more like, about 1.5 billion. We saw it come down all the way to about 5 billion as Bitcoin did come down to the $30,000 low, which did suggest and did give the bias in that this price action was being created by, well, essentially longs taking profits, not necessarily shorts piling up at the top, but people, reasonably so taking profits after, having a pretty fucking insane move since especially September, going from 10,000 to 40,000 bucks. Now we see something very interesting as well, which does fit in the narrative of this being a more or less, at least at the first pass, at the first glance, a healthy consolidation, likely leading for continuation coming into the future, which we'll match this up with later technicals as well. But open interest also popping up another billion from 5 billion to 6 billion as Bitcoin does test the top side of the range once again at 40,000 bucks. Well, what does that mean? That does mean that people did use that to actually to use a very fucking sore meme, which I absolutely hate. I fucking hate this, but it is true in this case. The BTFD, buy them fucking dip, or whatever the hell, whatever that stupid narrative is. Which, to be fair, in a straight upwards market, is that a fair trading philosophy? I suppose, yes. It doesn't take brains to what is it? Don't confuse brains with the bull market, of course. But what I would say about that is, well, at some point things will turn around and you will want to be locking those in. However, for right now and for the probably foreseeable future, still looking good, at least as it is. Also, fear and greediness popping up from an 83 to an 88, 5 points as Bitcoin does once again test 40,000 bucks. And let's go into the data tab we go now and see if there's anything, any canaries in this coal mine here. And the funny rate actually popping back up once again. We do see it actually really up there, in fact. So let's go and zoom in on the maneuver minutia, of which we can see the furthest one out there, actually Bybit today at 0.15%. We do see FTX at 0.13%, and everything else is actually below the threshold, just barely below that 0.1% threshold, of which I would say that is that actionable? No. And again, I want to see this read consistent for, 48 to 36 hours or 48 to 72 hours, this region. Before I start looking for major highs, which is actually what we saw at the end of last week. We saw it above 0.1%, consistent for about 2 days, and then boom, 40,000 to 30,000, which was actually, usually I say that this is not actionable in and of itself, but funnily enough, when you see it for that long, typically is. Anyways, with that said, let's see if there's anything else that's very much relevant right now. No, I don't see anything that's too out in the ordinary here. So into the price action charts we go, and this is going to be the most important thing, starting with the first, and of course it's what we left off yesterday with. The CME 3-day did close above the top side Toronto band once again, which with a very, very nice and girthy dildo right there. I love it. I fucking love that one. And while I do think that we could have some very short-term downside, maybe even back down to like 36,000, or maybe even back down to fill the open of last 3-day, which would be about 35,000 as well, then I would look at that as a very likely, at the very least, an opportunity for a nice bounce play and likely a continuation play. This is very obviously continuation as it stands right now, at least reading it from the 3-day Challenger band, of which that's been very consistent for the last, it's been very consistent over the history of Bitcoin on this asset right here. But more importantly, it's been very consistent on this past prior run, going from 10,000 to where we are right now. And what do you know? Closing above the top side Challenger band once again, very healthily on increasing volume. Above the moving average is what I mean to say. Looking pretty damn good for continuation coming into, maybe today, but very likely early next week. If I did, if I had to guess right now, what is the weekend gonna look like? Probably a little bit of a pullback, actually. Maybe even take a stab at that $35,000 or $36,000 level. But again, like I said, I would be looking at that as an opportunity. This is not finished fights. I'm not a financial advisor, but that would be the most important thing that's happened. That sets in the buys for the next few days to come. So with that in mind, also remember, CMEs do not trade over the weekend. So while the signal is in place and for myself very much actionable, I would not look for it to play over the weekend. The weekend can be a little bit of a washout move. I don't really have a strong opinion on that. Looking at momentum oscillators on top of that, what do we see? MACD is technically loosening right now, but this is obviously very, very young in this 3-day dildo's life. We still got, technically on this one, 5 days and 18 hours to close, obviously, again, because the weekend does not trade. And then what else do we see over here? ADX is actually still strong, which is very, very interesting because it's so fucking high. More importantly, we do see that the DMI Plus, obviously dominant, and more important than that, no divergences to be spoke about just yet. We are making highs, we are making new highs on DMI Plus alongside new highs on price action, which is very good, very healthy, and exactly what we want to be seeing. Also, we did see the 2-day dildo close as well. Did catch the top side of the Challenger band, which very likely does push down on the short-term timeframes, yes. But again, that needs to be taken into context of the greater things happening. Like the 3-day and the higher term timeframes like that. And also the DMI Plus, while it is still dominant, we do not see the ADX strengthening here. So what does that likely account for? It likely accounts for a little bit of sideways action over the weekend. Now, what's the next most important thing closing the soonest? Well, I do think it's a little more formality here because we already did see the 3-day close above the top side Toronto band. And this is, quite the obvious signal right there, in my opinion. Not just because it's obvious doesn't mean that it has to play out, but very likely has a very high probability. What we could look at now is the weekly, obviously closing today for CMEs at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time in the next 17 hours, 17 minutes, and 1 second to be exact. And if we do have the same thing that I was essentially looking for on the 3-day, I'd be looking for this one to print new highs, or at least try for new all-time highs coming into next week. We can come up with targets on the back of that. But as you can see right here, crawling above the top side Toronto band the whole way through, and as it is right now, we are clean $3,000, more than $3,000 above the top side Toronto band as it is. So it closing anywhere above the top side, which is about just above $35,000 at current price action, I would essentially be looking for that signal to get carried on over into next week, and I essentially have the same sort of what's it called, identification of it, or interpretation of it is a better terminology. Now, what's also very, very interesting about this, just being able to read candlesticks, we'll call them. No, dildos. No, candlesticks. We'll be professional today. Not that there's such a thing as professional in fucking cryptocurrency land. By the way, it's still the wild, wild west, motherfuckers. Get ready for the shootout coming later. And God damn it, Dutch. God damn it, Micah and Dutch. These... I'm never going to get over that, man. I'm still shedding tears over Arthur. So fucking sad, man. So fucking sad. Anyways, what was I saying? Yes, that's right. So when you see something like this, where you get a wick all the way back down even around the last week's open in this case right here, and this can work for, you know, higher term timeframes in general, but you still see rising wicks. That is intense buy pressure as it is. I still want to see this one close, obviously, but if this one even closed with a green body like at all, especially if it has, you know, even above 40,000 bucks, just barely, that's gonna look really fucking good for further all-time highs coming into next week. Yes, we very likely do pop back down and test the top side trailing band again early next week, but that once again, like I would say, is, you know, more or less going to be an opportunity, at least in my eyes. Of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but this would be the next most important thing that is happening the soonest. Again, later today in 17 hours, 15 minutes, and 10 seconds now. All right, going into Bitcoin spot price action, low term timeframes. Let's see what we got going on over here. And would I be looking for a pullback? Well, to be fair, I mean, we kind of did get our pullback. So yesterday we did say up to 40,000 bucks, and likely once that happens, we will see a pullback just based upon where CME closed on last Friday, producing that nice little gap right around here. I do put some weight on that, yes, but this is not a reversal type gap. This is more of a consolidation type gap. So, you know, could things come back down to 37 or even 36,000 bucks? Yes, very easily. And like I said, I would look at that as an opportunity. In fact, a wick down to 35,000 bucks would be a fucking obvious play as well, right around the 55 exponential moving average, which has been holding up the highs on this more recent consolidation. Hasn't really been tested before that all that much, but, you know, very obviously right now, Bitcoin going through a bit of an interim consolidation. So I do like that. As it is, we do see that lower term time frame momentum oscillators like the 4 hour are starting to turn back down around. So I would favor short term downside here. As long as we're below 40,000 bucks, that will inevitably happen on the next closure. We got 3 hour coming up right here. Same thing, 40,240. So this one's actually above where we see the 4 hour. So typically you want to see it the other way around. In this case, obviously downside angled once again. And then the buy hourly, we have same thing, 40,000 bucks about, and then hourly already down as well. So all lower term timeframes are in concert right now. And if I did call it, yes, I do think that Bitcoin does play out a pullback from here, probably over the weekend, probably does come down somewhere around 35 or 36,000 bucks, and then we'll pick it up from there. And well, you know, assuming that the bulls want to stay in control, I imagine that would be your next potential higher low as it is. Going over to the medium term timeframes right here on CME, so we see anything out of the ordinary. Not really. I mean, medium-term time frame still looking pretty damn good here as far as momentum oscillators go. 12-hour RSI actually should have hit hidden bullish divergence there, but then again, no, because that is technically not a higher low right there. So fair enough. Good call, Mr. Caretaker. You will see it on spot price action though. And do we have one right over here as well? Probably a little bit too far away, but yeah, technically going all the way back to fucking 18,000 bucks. And then we have this $34,000 low right here. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go into the regular spot price action charts and we'll see what we got going on right here. Okay, so yes, this is what's very interesting to me as well. So here's the next, okay, so CME supersedes everything that I speak about on something like this, but this is important as well, and this would be the next most important thing that I would want to be aware of, and that would be this daily Stokes on spot price action charts, of which we did have this trend line coming in, or that we did identify a couple weeks ago, which is coming in around the edge of the bullish control zone, which is connected with two of our major lows since this ran really began in late September, and then connected with our major low in early December. It could, if I could remind you where Bitcoin price action was during those times, it was right in over here at about just above 10,000 bucks, and then more recently on the 13th of December, right here at about $18,000. Once again, coming down to that trend line on this higher low right here. And by the way, these are all higher lows right here, and right here, as this trend just continues to get more and more aggressive. And that does follow through. On top of that, like I said, that trend line would be coming in around the top side of the bullish control zone. So we naturally want to see things get picked up right around there, if bulls want to stay in control, obviously, and that will naturally come down with any sort of a closure below 39,250 at current structure. And would that be a front run of this? Yes, it would. And naturally, you do see momentum get picked up and taken upwards and onwards more aggressively as time goes on and trends get more and more aggressive. So in this case, right here, we'd expect it to do, we'd expect it to act more like a regression like this. So this would be the next most important thing to be aware of, coming potentially the soonest, as soon as tonight's closure at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which would be this. If we do close above this pivot, this 39,250 pivot, where it does start to cross back up again, yes, I would favor the immediate upside back onto a full-on test of our, of our prior all-time high at about $42,000, and probably does break it on top of that, because we do have hidden bullish divergence confirmed right here. We're already testing the top side of the range. So usually when you see hidden bullish divergence confirmed like that, if it's it's getting confirmed when it's at like the low side of the range, you know, way down over here, you'll usually just get another test back to the either median or the top side of the range. In this case, when you're seeing it getting initiated or getting confirmed once you're already pretty much at the top side of the range, that usually does precipitate breakouts like you see back on over here, like you see back on over here, like you see back. I think that's it for that one. But yes, you know, my point is that if that were to happen, I would be looking for a Boolah-ish weekend, if you will. But for right now, I do remain a little bit more defensive here on the short-term timeframes. So let's actually check them out and see what the 4 hours printing right now. Probably does have an extremely short-term timeframe bounce right here, but similar to CMEs, will officially grow to the down, or sorry, will continue to the downside as long as we're below 39,700 on the next closure, coming in about 3 hours and 11 seconds. Going on to the, or actually, let's see what the RSI is printing here as well. A whole lot of nothing, but it has gotten back its constructive behavior, which I really do like. We do see higher lows on the RSI as well, coming off of the bearish control zone, so I do like that as well. But I would be looking for the next move down, actually. You know, even though this on the whole is now once again constructive, seeing that move yesterday, I would actually be looking for the next short-term move to the downside, to be fair. And HVP is continuing to contract as we identified yesterday, so that is good. Still baking in a consolidation here, which I do have the bias of this consolidation being more or less healthy. Going on to the 3 hour, what do we see right here? We see 3 hour Stokes already down as well. Very similar to what we saw on CMEs, below 39,950. Let me just make sure that I'm recording and that my phone's working. Okay, good, nice, awesome, great. And yes, looking good right there. And 3 hour does look like wants to come down. Yeah, at the very least, it's 37,500 right here. And I'd probably extend that, like I said, to about 36.5. 3 hour RSI, again, constructive on the whole. Short term, obviously downside angled though. This is a very good read here. Just short term, very likely does come back down somewhere around the 50 read, at which point I'd be looking for it to try to get picked up once again. How far does price action get during that move? Could be 35, could be 36. Whatever it ends up being, you know, I want to see that in real time. So I can't really give out specific prices for that. And more importantly, we do see that HVP is in a little bit more of an aggressive contraction phase. Again, you know, speaking towards this being a more or less healthy consolidation on the whole. By the way, how did that work out? Head and shoulders players over here. Again, I'll say this very briefly here. First and foremost, I'm not a pattern trader. I don't really care to trade patterns, except for triangles in Bitcoin land. Those do work out pretty damn well. They have a hit rate of in the upper 60%. However, for head and shoulders, one of my friends who works at a quant firm, or actually worked at a quant firm, he's no longer there anymore, did do some data analysis on this for Bitcoin specifically on head and shoulders and counter trend, which it is a fucking, obviously it's a reversal pattern for the most part. They have a very low hit rate actually in Bitcoin land. I believe it's in the upper 20s or lower 30s, which for me, that is not good enough to put risk on. And I mean, first off, this wasn't even a head and shoulders to begin with. Volume signature, wrong. Shape, wrong. Symmetry, wrong. Head, neckline, also wrong. Like none of it works. So it's like where you start with critiquing something like that. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna draw a fucking triangle on it. No, it's silliness. So if your favorite fucking internet fucking talking head was calling head and shoulders, that's just pure silliness. It was never a head and shoulders. It was, I mean, again, I'm not a pattern trader, but you like you have to know these things if you're gonna trade fucking patterns. You have to know what a head and shoulders looks like, right? It's one of the more used ones, especially in like forex and traditional markets. Anyways, as it stands right now, buy early as we go through it. Momentum also is down, nice and south side angled. Buy early RSI even has a bit of a head and shoulders right here. This actually would work, and yes, you can see head and shoulders in the RSI. In fact, I put a lot more weight on them in the RSI than anything, and I'll be looking for it to come back down a little bit below the neutral or to the bottom side of the neutral zone right here. So downside, short-term downside is angled. Same thing on HVP here, just more aggressive, and hourly I expect to see more or less the same, and hourly is very obviously downside angled here as well. Hourly Stokes down, very much healthily down in fact, and we do have this trend line coming in right here, by the way, way the fuck down there, but that would imply that we got a little more downside to go. Did the hourly Joule give a sell signal? No. I think I saw someone call out a 30-minute Joule sell signal. Yeah, it did. 14th of January at 1800 my time. Oh, pretty good. Actually, didn't get the ultimate high, but got about $100 about $500 below it. Pretty good. Pretty good. Nice one. I usually don't reference the 30-minute, but we did get a continuation sell signal right here too. That was at 39.3. Yeah, I'd still be looking for some short-term downside here. So all of this kind of further confirming my previously held beliefs. And, if I had to call, at the very least, probably does come back down to the 0.5 at 35.7, 35.5 region. So fair enough. Fair enough indeed. All right. Okay. What about the medium-term timeframes? What do we see on over here? 12-hour Stokes did officially cross the upside, and of course, they did play off of this trend line over here. I guess I already have it in there. Again, another regression coming in from our lows in early September, late September, more recently in late November and early December. So that those were worlds apart really, but once again, bouncing off this level and will remain to the upside as long as above 34,350. So what I would say is that I'm just generally bullish on price action for this whole consolidation right here, as long as you're above that pivot, which by the way would be yet again another higher low at current structure. So fair enough. And again, same thing over here as well. We do have that hidden bullish divergence play out, 1, 2, 3 stabs. Obviously we identified this I think about a day and a half ago now, so you can see in real time how this plays out. And I want to follow for people, especially who have the caretaker RSI here, to kind of see it in the same way, because when it confirms right in over here, right? I mean, it still takes, and keep in mind that each and every one of these is 12 hours worth of price action. I mean, one day, it's like 2.5 days. So yes, these signals do take some time, and you just gotta be a little bit patient with it. But I think if you can reference these and then back test them and see them in real time, then it's gonna make a lot more sense if you are struggling with such things. So fair enough. And what do we see? We see the 21 coming around 36.2. Yeah, I favor the downside here short term. That does not make me a bear on this. That does not make me look for an actual breakage to the downside. Again, I really don't get bearish on this price action, especially as long as we're printing 12-hour higher lows, and that structure is coming in around $34,000 or 33.5, right around here. So if that was to be broken, then yes, I would start to again look for that move down into the 23 to 24,000 region back here with bounce along the way. The same areas would be still very much relevant on the downside. We have all of these guys, although I do think that I've maybe one too many here, to be fair. But more importantly, this area needs to fail first, either on a 4-hour or this area on a 12-hour, before I really start to get into a more medium term. You might even call that a long-term bearish move. I mean, we're talking about almost $10,000 move there, so yes, it would be very much relevant. But as you can see right now, we're well and far away from that region, and I still hold on to my previously thought beliefs that this is more or less a healthy consolidation. So again, daily over here. We will see daily Stokes cross back. We already mentioned that one, so that's the next biggest thing for spot price action charts. Obviously, the weekly for CMEs. What else do we want to see? Maybe a 2-day really quick. 2-day momentum also is still coming down. Actually, we'll cross back onto the upside above about 40,850. Not bad right there. Hidden bullish divergence also getting initiated. That really makes me think that we're not just going to test the prior all-time high at $42,000. It's probably going to get broken and make new all-time highs. Let's start to come up with new targets for this. So I want to specifically reference this for the people in the TA program who have been asking about fib extensions and whatnot. And in this case right here, you've noticed that I've actually taken a bearish extension. In fact, a bearish extension from the top side of the range and to the bottom side of the range right here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, if Bitcoin does break out the top side of the range, once again, I do want a fresh set of fib extensions in this case. And what do we see? We do see that the one spot 272 would be coming in around about 44,300. So I actually do want to mark that area off. The reason being because I would be looking for a short-term pullback upon this area, and probably does play out a range between this and the top side currently just below $42,000 if Bitcoin were to break out the top side of the range. So again, first things first, what constitutes a break of the top side of the range? 4-hour closure above about $41,000 right here, to be fair. Then that would be get continuation for another $3,000 plus, and then I'd be looking for a range between these two guys, and then likely does gun for the more deep ones over time. Still, 46,000 right here would be relevant. I'd want to be aware of this, of course, but this one is really not relevant for anything more than just a short-term pullback as well. The 2-spot extension right here, this one's a big one. That's at $52,000, so we're talking about 50,000s once again. And then, of course, the big one is not the 272 or the 414, it's a 618 right here, right around $60,000. So I do still kind of stick with what I've been saying about Bitcoin at $60,000 long term. I do still think that it's very much on the horizon. Is it happening today or tomorrow? No. Is it happening over the next few months? Potentially, yes. So I do remain, kind of within that same ideology. But patience, I suppose. Patience is the name of the game here. Okay, all right, and then we can come up with new targets on top of that, if and when the time does come. All right, we are 24 minutes into this bitch. Let's go reference Caretaker's ranges right here. He's calling this on the hourly a neutral zone consolidation. I would agree with that. It is very much neutral in the context of an uptrend on the higher term timeframes, and showing the downside short term would be 37,000. Upside short term would be 40,600. I'd actually disagree with this on this one, just because this one is kind of contracting quite a bit here. It's going to expand, and those ranges are naturally going to open the fuck up. So let's actually find a time frame that's already doing that. Maybe the 4 hour. Yeah, the 4 hours doing it. As you can see, volatility is like much higher here, comparatively speaking, and we do see that this one's actually identifying it as a strong rising trend. No shit, it is. And it would suggest, yes, about big targets at, about 43,500 bucks to the downside. 36,500 bucks would be an obvious bounce as well. So I do like that. I'm just curious what the daily would say. Does that line up with any of our more long-term targets? Hey, what do you know? 50,000 bucks right there, but that's again long-term. So fair enough. Fair enough. Thank God Almighty, it's fair enough. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's go check out Nasdaq really quick. Nasdaq coming down. So yesterday I was saying sideways and up. We actually did get a bit of sideways and up yesterday, but now coming back down to our sideways range. I'd actually be looking for this one to stab a little bit lower, somewhere around about 12,800 right here. Once again on the 21 exponential moving average on the daily, and likely bounce there once again. So short term I would be a little bit of downside angled. Weekly is in a very precarious place. If the weekly closes like this, I don't know if I'll still be bullish coming into next week. I want to see this close officially before I really start to get gung-ho on that. But if we come down and take out last week's low, that would be a very obvious signal that we are going to see much lower, down towards a little bit south of 12,000 bucks. But I think I need to see today's closure before I get more confident in making something of that. What about SPY futures over here? Let's see. Sometimes they are a little bit more obvious. We got our sideways in up range yesterday, now coming down as today begins. Would I be looking for some more downside venom on this one? Yes, actually I would probably be looking for this one. Well, difficult one as well. I mean, we do have some bearish divergence here definitely coming in. Yeah. I'd probably be looking for a move down to about 37.50, and I'd be looking for a bounce there as well. Weekly, do we see anything out of the ordinary here? Very, very similar. Again, that would actually just be a backfill in last week open. I'd look at that as an opportunity once again. I know it sounds crazy, but yes, I would. Anyways, what about the tech sector? XLK, coming down a little bit as well. Wow, Bitcoin headed up, XLK coming down, although it's still within the context of this consolidation. And, as we said, Bitcoin does have some short-term downside here. So, or very likely some short-term downside, I should say. Can we make anything more out of this? Yeah, I'd be looking to take another stab towards a 55 at 127.5 about, probably today. Anyways, let's go check out first off, let's check out Bitcoin dominance, as we did see quite the moves there on the app at first glance. Let's see if that holds up over here. Okay, not really getting much from this. It's still consolidation at a high level. Daily still looks like, well, it's not much to make out on the daily. Someone called out something. What? Who was that? And what did they call it? Yeah, they did call it a 4-hour jewel buy signal, but I don't think that indicators work on something like this. Short term, it actually does have a little bit of downside here. It would seem about 68.75, but I would be looking for a bounce here at the same point. Let's go check out some Bitcoin pairings. So Ethereum, Ethereum Bitcoin yesterday, I really look at this one as kind of like the altcoin index in a lot of ways. And I said yesterday, if it takes out the 8th of January low right here, then that would be a very obvious bearish signal, and that this golden cross was not going to play out. That did not happen yesterday, to be fair. Even though it did look bad, even though it did get pretty damn close, it did not officially do that. It actually came about 400,000 Satoshis away from it. So, nice little buffer zone right there, and then bounces up. And this is what you would expect to see if the golden cross is going to play. So for right now, I still do look at the Golden Cross as, well, playable, I suppose. If it does come back down to this level and now takes out this low rather than the 8th of January low, but that would be this low, the 14th of January low, then I would look at it in the same way that I described yesterday, as this is a failed Golden Cross. This is going to be a fake out, and we're going to see a major move to the downside, peak out this whole rally. But for right now, it's doing quite literally the opposite, and you have to respect that and have to be looking for a short-term move back up to about 3,300,000 Satoshis back around here. So fair enough indeed. Anyways, moving on to, let's actually look at it versus US dollar right here. Very similar to Bitcoin, extremely similar to Bitcoin. Any sort of a closure above 1286 and a quarter today, and I'd be looking for new highs, new highs be printed on this one. Alongside Bitcoin, I'd imagine that they probably play together. So there's no real inherent greatness for just looking at Buterol on its own. But if we were to make some projections on this one, the next major target would actually be around 1700 with stops along the way at about 1450-ish region. So fair enough. And also same sort of reads that we see here on Bitcoin. We do see hidden bullish divergence on the daily at the tops of the range. While momentum oscillators are hinting at potentially cross up, kind of within striking distance, still $66 away at current price action, but could happen theoretically. If that happens, then yes, I'm looking for new highs and for it to make its way towards, I guess, 1600. As crazy as that sounds. Once again, for the people who are new here, of which there's a lot of people, not a lot of new people here, should probably reiterate that first and foremost, my titles of my videos have very little to do with the actual content. It's just to play the fucking funny clickbait game and kind of poke some fun at some other people as well. Although for the most part, these the people in this market are like mostly my friends actually, but can't still have to have a little bit of a friendly joke now, don't you? And then second off, what else do I want to say? I forget the second point. Fuck. If you're new here, pull your pants down and get ready, motherfuckers. It's going in dry. We're in Bitcoin land, baby. And if you thought that last 25% move from 40,000 to 30,000 was much of anything, oh motherfucker, you're in for a goddamn red dildo treat at some point. Maybe not just yet, but at some point, get ready for your first 50% down day. That's when the real fun begins, sir. Get those fucking girthy red dildos out and prepare. Shish kebab time. Anyways, what about MicroStrategy? Straight fucking up. This one's making new all-time highs. This one's making new all-time highs. I mean, looking at this, it's hard not to look at Bitcoin as likely to make new all-time highs with this one. This could be your canary in the coal mine right now. It looks pretty damn good. What else do we want to check out while we're here? Maybe Linky Dinky, popping back up to $19, our target from a couple weeks ago, and I'd still stick with it. Any sort of a closure above $19, and you will complete what is essentially, call it a W pattern, call it a fucking ascending triangle. I don't care what you call it. It's reaccumulation, motherfucker. It's reaccumulation, and we can come up with targets on this one as well. Let's do something like this. Make an extension for this area right here. Hey, show me the... Hey, let me delete this, you piece of garbage. What the fuck? Where's the delete thingy? Seriously, for real. Where? Okay, there we go. Found it. All right, thank you, TradingView. Appreciate that. We would have measure move significantly higher, actually, towards about $25 if that were to be... Or sorry, about $24.5 if that were to be completed. So fair enough. Looking pretty damn good, Link. Link, I do think, I do declare, still looking pretty damn good here. And, if I had to call it right now, yeah, it's gonna make new all-time highs. Very, very strong chart. Still one of the best charts in cryptocurrency land. I'd even say that this chart, well, it's technically not better than Bitcoin chart because Bitcoin has more of a long-term history of just melting up, but this one is similar in that regard. Compare that with some like Mr. Buterol over here, which sometimes goes through some nasty consolidations, but weekly looking very similar as well. It looks good here, man. Here's the thing: when you see a wick like that on a weekly, that's fucking buy pressures as open interest goes up, which I should have called back to earlier. Anyways, daily over here on Buterol, or actually we went over this, so fair enough. Do we want to go for over Stinky Litecoin? Maybe Stinky Litecoin gets a little bit of the spotlight today. Not as strong for sure in terms of relative strength. This one is certainly of the lower cut of the lower variety, but if the rest of the market wants to go up, this one gets to go up as well. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that nice? Just pull them up by your bootstraps once again. Litecoin puking out the whole fucking rally. So maybe we are seeing bifurcation here. What about Ripple? Ripple doesn't even know what a rally is, so that would be a bad one to reference. How about that? Back up to 25 cents, so a quarter. But that doesn't mean much for the Satoshi parent. Still in a downtrend overall too, which is kind of nasty. Is there anything else that I want to reference here, or should we make this one short? Yeah, let's make this one short and digestible, and we'll come back later for a bit of a follow-up. So let's prepare to wrap this bitch up. Okay, so we'll get this, get that going on over there. Okay. All right. We want to start it off over here because this is the big bad one. Alrighty, let's wrap this bitch up. Bitcoin on the 3-day yesterday night did close above the topside Toronto band on CME. The most important thing that did actually happen. And what do you know? That will set in the buys for the next 3 days, or basically coming into next week, as we do not trade over the weekend for CMEs, for some more upside, at the very least testing, and very likely new all-time highs if I had to call it. Now, of course, the next biggest thing that I'd be waiting for to further confirm these views, although I'd say that this is more or less a formality right now, as the 3-day is very, very obviously speaking right here, would be waiting for the CME weekly, which closes later today in 16 hours, 51 minutes, and 0 seconds to close above the topside Toronto band as well. And I'd still be looking at this as a trend in progress, trend in motion, which essentially sets in the buys for new all-time highs alongside that, especially after a bit of a fake out on the 3-day right here. But with all of that said, could we have a pullback in between on the shorter term timeframes? Yes, absolutely. I'd look for any sort of a pullback back down to about 36,500 on CMEs, or even a backfill in last open just below 35,000 bucks as a major opportunity. Of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but but you can figure out what the fuck I'm trying to do on those pivots most likely, and then we can go over here to a spot price checking charts as well, because there is a very, very big signal that could be baking today as well. Obviously, we did identify this hidden bullish divergence yesterday on both the daily and the 12-hour. This is coming in at the top side of the range right now, which is typically a very, 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 very good signature, especially as Bitcoin is above all major moving averages while they have positive slopes. This is quite the setup right here. On top of that, here would be another signal that Bitcoin's going to continue sooner rather than later to very likely new all-time highs, and we'll talk about targets in a second here. But it would be this: if Bitcoin does close above the 39,250 pivot on today's closure, this one coming in at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern time, then not only would it turn momentum back up within the bullish control zone as hidden bullish divergence is initiated, as we do see it once again play off the trend line that is holding up in the bullish control zone and increase momentum over time, but that would start to really imply that Bitcoin's going to have a nice little melt up phase right here. Hello, Sleeping Beauty. Welcome to the world. Welcome to the Lucky's new shits today. How about that? Anyways, as we can see over here, we do have targets above. The one spot 272 would be 44,300. That would be the next area of interest. I would be looking for a pullback off that area on first pass and play, maybe even all the way back down to our horizontal right here at about 41,000 bucks. And then of course we got the 414 at about 45.5, we'll call it. And then above there, we can start talking about 50,000 bucks, or actually 52,150 to be exact. So all of this is looking well and good right now. And as long as Bitcoin's above all major moving averages on the daily, I quite like this. What's the other way that you could potentially front run, or maybe not front run, but confirm a breakout to the upside? Well, a 4-hour closure above our 4-hour pivot, which is basically just above 41,000 bucks. So either one of those things probably does work for me. In the interim, though, would I be looking for some short-term downside? I probably would, actually. Anywhere down to 36 or 35,000 bucks is fair game, and I look at that as an opportunity. Again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but we do see that all lower-term momentum oscillators are currently downside angled. Here's our 4-hour below 39,700. Here's our 3-hour below 39,950. Here's our bi-hourly below 39,923, and here's our hourly below 39,400. So all lower-term timeframes are in concert right now. And if I had to call it short-term, yes, would be down. Maybe it's a bit of a weekend pullback, and then set it up for early next week as CMEs open back up once again. With all of that said, I'd like to wish you the best of the best. I'd like to wish you the happiest. Take care, and until next time.